Welcome everyone. Here we are for the September 17th, 2024 meeting of the Police Services Board, the last one of the year. And I would also say that we have the mayor has sent his regrets. He's not here today. And so we'll continue on. Number one, we have the roll call, and we are all present with the exception of the mayor, as I said. Number two, slight change. The recommendation is that the board amend the agenda to receive an updated report for item 6.5. And the recommendation as well goes on that the agenda be approved as amended. Moved by the two people who are here. So I'm just going to alternate back and forth.
Switch the names.
Member Hall and Member Hahn. All those in favor. Here we go. There'll be some repetition on that as we are down to 3 members today. But we do have quorum, and thank you for attending, everyone. We have a declaration of pecuniary interest. Do we have any today? I don't think so. Any? None present, so we'll move on. Number 4, the reading and correction or approval of minutes, and these are the general meeting minutes of November the 19th, 2024. And the recommendation is that the minutes of the November 19th, 2024 general meeting of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services Board be approved as written. And I'm going to look to my left this time. Moved by Member Hahn, seconded by Member Hall. All those in favor? Thank you very much. Which moves us on rapidly now to number 5, communications. And the recommendation is that the communication items 5.1.1 to 5.1.8 be received for information. And could I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Member Hall, second by Member Hahn. All those in favor? Thank you. Do we have any questions on those if we want to go through these? Are there questions on any of these items? Member Hahn.
I had a few, and they're short questions and maybe directed to the chief. Number 5.1.2, the closed circuit television grant program. And I know it's all about expanding the guns, gangs, and violence report. What is that word circuit television grant mean?
So through the board, I'm actually going to defer to the deputy to provide some input on this. He has filled out a application in regards to this grant application, and he can certainly speak to the elements of it.
That's a different one.
You still want to speak to it?
I haven't read it, so.
Sorry, stand by. Apparently, that's a different grant program. So I believe that this one would be in relation to funding that the province would make available. It's generally on a 50-50% funding envelope.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, I am now going to defer to the deputy.
Okay.
I will qualify that he is just returning from a 1-week vacation in the Dominican, so he may still have some island fogginess. So with that, I'll turn it over to him.
My apologies on that. Yeah, so we are in the process of submitting for the grant. It provides up to 50% of the costs for basically CCTV cameras throughout the municipality. I believe we're writing for approximately $100,000. So we would get 50,000 of that back. So there's still some logistics on the other 50,000, but they do have automated license plate recognition software as well. There is some AI technology in it as well. So if you're looking for a blue Dodge Ram, you can type in blue Dodge Ram and it will go through all of the footage that it's captured and find blue Dodge Ram. So if there's an incident or a shoplifting or an assault, we can quickly locate and potentially identify who was involved. And they would be strategically placed throughout the municipality, Strathroy, Mount Bridges, Melbourne, and I believe looking at Delaware West with the ALPRs in particular to get vehicles coming and going, so.
So in relation to the guns, gangs, and violence reduction strategy, so by having the ability to find out where, let's say, stolen vehicles may be involved in guns, gangs, or violence, this would allow you to rapidly identify locations.
Yeah, that's correct. So we can monitor for, we can actually even input license plates of known gang members, which includes motorcycle gang members, which we do have in our community, so that we can monitor them as well. So it is a great tool. I've seen Chatham-Kent Police Service currently have it up and running. I've witnessed what they have, and it's an incredible tool to assist.
That really explains it. Thank you so much. My other question, Chair, was in regards to, I was really interested in that commissions under the Great Seal, the King's Commission, and I know that previously, at least in my reading, it stated that it was only relevant or eligible for OPP, and now they're rolling it out to municipal police services, and it depends a little bit on rank. So I wondered, Chief, if you could explain if that might be something Strathroy-Caradoc would consider, and how does that process work? I know it's based on certain rank positions.
So through the chair to Member Hahn, an excellent question. Currently we participate in the Exemplary Service Medal Program. We've had some presentations here. That typically is what we have utilized as far as recognizing members here. This program, I'll call it maybe a revamping of a former program. And as the literature says, it initially was only sort of earmarked for the provincial policing service. So we will look at it, we will review and potentially see if there is any members. Currently in our rank structure, it would only be eligible for myself and or the deputy. So we will probably proceed cautiously as far as how much we want to sort of self-recognize, because we don't have any of the other ranks currently in our organization that we could recognize current members.
Can the board have input into this recognition program? Could the board provide a statement?
Again, through the chair to Member Hahn, I haven't looked at it that closely. I certainly could take another review of it and provide sort of a commentary back to the board. I'm sure that option is probably available. I haven't dove deep enough into the correspondence.
So I guess I would say once you take a further look at it, I would like to bring forward on behalf of the board some recommendations on either of those positions you mentioned. To me, it gives recognition to stellar achievements through your careers, and I think that's something we as a board should look at.
Again, through the board to Member Hahn, I certainly do appreciate those words of support, and we will work together to explore further.
Well, thank you for that. And that would be something to look into. Appreciate the questions. Any other comments or questions on any of these items that remain in communications that we have received? All right then, seeing none, since we've already voted to accept them, receive them, we'll move on to number 6, which is the review of monthly police reports, police service reports. So many items here. I guess what we can do is we can ask the recommendation that the monthly reports 6.1 to 6.5 be received for information. I'm going to look to my right, and moved by Member Paul. towards the chief. And do you have anything that you would like to speak about in particular? And then you'll be open for questions, of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just for the record, I've switched microphones and the other one seemed to be a little less than cooperative. So hopefully I won't be sort of technically challenged here. I do want to just sort of make some comments about the monthly reports, just to direct some attention to some of the statistical data that has been presented. And I'm going to, and I know that sometimes my reports don't always fall in the same order as perhaps they are prepared to the board. But if I could just draw the board members' attention to the Uniform Crime Reporting Violations Report, which is this one here. I just really, the three areas I really wanted to highlight, and I know that there was a comment made last night during council meeting, I believe by Councillor Pelkman, about you know, the holiday season and certainly the information that is contained in this package about the increase or the presence of impaired driving incidents in our community. And so I want to speak briefly about that and continue with the messaging to our community that anyone who chooses to drink and then get behind the wheel will see the full force of the law taken to investigate, potentially arrest, and certainly charge where applicable to ensure that we are doing everything we can as a policing service to ensure that we have the safest possible roads in our community, in our province, because there is no room for impaired driving at all. You know, this issue has been certainly well documented. The communities have certainly been well educated, and the message certainly has been strong for a long number of years that impaired driving is not tolerable. And it is unfortunate that as a community we are still encountering incidents of impaired driving. And as I've said at previous board meetings, I take my hat off to the community members who are very engaged in reporting those crimes as they are occurring. That greatly enhances our ability to stop violators and to proceed through investigations leading to charges because of that engagement and interaction from our community members. You will continue to see, especially during the holiday season, the presence of ride programs as a deterrent, both proactively and in some cases reactive, to ensure that we are making our roads safe. So I wanted to sort of lead with that acknowledging that we are still seeing impaired numbers that are a lot higher than we certainly wish, and that we will continue through enforcement actions as well as public safety messaging to ensure that we are clearly articulating what it is that we are expecting from our community members and those who are visiting our community. The other two areas in this report that I also wanted to highlight, which again I think speaks to a lot of the great work that again I want to project back to our frontline uniform members, and that is seeing a decrease in our crimes against people and our property related crimes. When you look at the statistics over the 4-year period, you'll see that in both those areas, you know, the crimes, the person crimes, albeit a bit up from where we were last year, certainly is a lot further down from the previous years of 2021 and 2022. And those are those impactful crimes, you know, the assaults, and probably the most horrific type of crime, sexual assaults. So it's positive to sort of see that we are seeing some overall drops in our person crimes. But again, you have a well-trained and a very diligent police service who, when tasked to investigate those types of serious crimes, certainly commit all the resources possible. And again, certainly the property-related crimes, when we look at it in this collective window of over a 3 or 4 year period, we are again seeing some drops in those numbers, which again speaks to the energy and the commitment from our uniformed members to be proactive in being in spaces so that we are visible and hopefully deterring crime from occurring. Because as I think we can all appreciate, property crimes generally are those crimes of opportunity. And when community members are seeing uniformed patrol officers, it certainly is a very large deterrent from those activities occurring. In the criminal investigation division, I also wanted to highlight, I guess it's bullet point number 6, in regards to a search warrant executed at a residence here in our community. Again, I know that the board and I'm sure that community members certainly appreciate the length of time it takes to build a case, gather the evidence. Certainly when you are applying for a judicial authorization to enter into a residence, you want to ensure that you have the strongest, most relevant evidence available to meet that threshold to get the warrant executed, or sorry, signed before you can execute. I also want to highlight the fact that you know, we have great policing partners, and you know, through the deputy and his contacts with Sarnia Police, we were able to lean in to their service and utilize a couple of teams they have that certainly made this execution seamless and safe, not only for the residents, but the policing members from our organization and from the Sarnia Police Service, so that everyone at the end of the day, no one got hurt, and that's very, very important. You can see from the summary that
Sorry.
I think, Chair, that's a $5 fine, is it?
I think it's a $5 donation to the charity of your choice.
Sorry, I'm using words from the policing units. You'll see from the summary some very substantial amounts, not only of product but street value and some recovered property. I will end on this note. I was, after the execution of this warrant, at a local business when I had a member from that organization come over and actually thank us as an organization for the work that specifically went into the execution of this warrant and the results from this warrant, which again, that's not something that as a police organization we're seeking. We're not looking for pats on the back by any means, but it is certainly a reflection of what values people in this community have, what's important to them, and when they see results like this, that they realize that, again, this police service is committed to doing our very best when we can to have cases like this go forward where we are executing, searching and securing and seizing items such as this to, again, hopefully make our community a little bit safer in ways that we can. So those were the areas I really wanted to highlight, but certainly I'll take questions from the board.
Thank you very much, Chief. And Member Hall.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll echo the general public's sentiments on that warrant. That was a big warrant and took a lot of drugs and moved money off the street, so good job. My question is, I know we reached out to Sarnia for their ERU and their K9 unit, and with our service kind of growing as it is, at what point do you see a need for in-house teams such as that, or have we ever been at that point before where we've had those teams, or what are your kind of thoughts on that?
So through the chair to Member Hall, certainly we are growing as a community. We are certainly seeing more and more incidents that are leading us down that path. One of the steps that we are hoping to take is by implementing a data analytics dashboard that will allow us to, as we create, capture, and report incidents, we will have the ability to start to draw a clearer picture of when and where we have needs. So for example, the service that we are looking to piggyback from, who are executing this dashboard, built their case study for creating a K9 unit in their service by capturing incidents where they either could have used or did use a neighboring police services K9 unit to help clearly demonstrate the need for that particular activity or resource in your organization. So I think it's prudent, not only as a policing organization, but as a governance board, that you see and understand where there are actual needs and where is that return on investment or ROI. So I think it's incumbent on us to clearly show the need for something before we sit here and perhaps ask for that financial commitment to make something happen. And you know, K9 is one example. Tactical or emergency response type activities are another example. You know, in the past, we certainly tried to build and made that argument about digital evidence and forensic investigations. So there's a lot of different lanes to potentially for us to land in. But again, I think it starts with what does the internal data show us to substantiate and to, you know, I guess sort of formalize that need for us to land there. So it's kind of a long answer to saying, I think it's important that we build that case first before we come and ask for extra human resources or you know, capital resources to execute that want.
Member Hahn.
For the chief, you had definitely talked about that search warrant and the degree, and you used the word for part of that as recovered property. With that recovered property, it was a significant value. Would that be related at all to any jewelry store crimes that have been very prevalent recently?
So through the chair to Member Hahn, since it's still before the courts, I'll probably sort of hold back on where we think that property was, how it was connected to alleged crimes.
Thank you.
Just a comment from the chair. I think it's really great to understand the importance of community policing, especially at this time of year, and keeping our roads safe. And I've often, I used to say to my high school students, the community is essentially a team for keeping our roads safe. And obviously, our police force are involved in enforcement. But I think we can all be proactive in prevention. And so don't be a bystander in a situation where you see a person who is obviously impaired reaching for their keys to go home after a social event. Be a friend and intervene. You may not be popular at that moment. It may cause some friction in them at that moment, but I think in view of the alternatives, it's something that we should all probably try and take responsibility for. So I think we really have to help our enforcement, our police force, by really attempting to intervene and help people make really good choices over the healthy season that we want to have. We don't want to have any tragedy. So that's just something I used to talk about, and I think we all have responsibility. It's not sort of like we all sit back and say, we'll let the police take care of it. No, if we want to keep our streets safe and our kids safe when they're walking on the roads, we have to, I think, intervene where necessary. Okay, well, thank you very much for that. And I think we had, if memory serves, we'd already received those for information, correct? Yes, so thank you. And now we go to number 7, which is items from Chief Campbell. And there are several here, so Chief, the floor is yours.
Thanks again, Chair. So I'll look after the first 2, and then I'm going to defer the third one, the 2023 Annual Use of Force Report, to the Deputy, as that is certainly in his wheelhouse, an area of expertise. So the first one, the December staffing update. Obviously, with the creation of the new Community Safety Policing Act, there are certain obligations to ensure that there is updates brought to the board in regards to hiring and exits of policing or staff members from the policing organization. So this report really is just bringing forward activities of people who have arrived within the organization, but also acknowledging those who have exited the organization to move further along in their policing journey. So I'll leave it at that, and certainly take any questions from any of the board members.
All right, just before we do that, though, I'll ask that the board receive POL 2024-24 for information. Moved by, I'm going to look to my left, Member Hahn, seconded by Member Hall. All those in favor? Thank you, that's passed. And then over to you, Member Hahn, you had a question.
For the chief, my question related to the resignations of the 2 constables. How many years of service would those 2 constables have had with the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services?
Sorry, I missed the first part. Is it the 2 that have resigned or retired?
Yes, that have resigned. Just on average.
Yeah, I would say less than 5 for Constable Allen and less than 3 for Constable Zubovic.
So in both of those cases, you mentioned briefly they pursued other growth opportunities in their career.
Correct, yeah. So Constable Allen, upon resigning from us, took a position with the Ontario Provincial Police. Constable Zubovic took a position with the London Police Service.
That's always good to know, in the sense that we all appreciate that constables are seeking further growth opportunities in their career path. So that's good to hear versus, a troublesome issue of sorts. Thanks.
Thank you for that. I have a question, and that is with the growing size of our force and the number of personnel that we have, it's a great deal of HR time. And I'm just wondering, I'm just going to ask the chief, to what extent do you use the HR department of the municipality of Strathroy-Caradoc in carrying out all of these personnel matters?
So through the chair, great question. And I'll start, and I'll maybe defer to both my left and right, since I'm flanked on both sides. So I'm going to start by saying the work that the deputy, Staff Sergeant Whitenberg, Sergeant Cartwright, and others in the organization who really do the heavy lifting on our recruiting front, as far as conducting those initial interviews, more formal interviews that lead to the offers of employment. It is a very tenuous sort of activity, and they have been very diligent, and you'll see obviously by the number of hires that it has been an ongoing process. It's sort of like swimming in rough waters. You think you've got your head above water, and then all of a sudden there's another little wave that sort of splashes over you. But I do want to commend, in particularly those three staff members. And I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge, and I think it's not a secret, certainly to the board members, how we involve our members in our recruiting strategy as well, is that when we have a potential employee coming in, whether it's a uniformed member, a sworn member or a non-sworn member, we do pair them up with some of our current staff members for some one-on-one time. I think it's fair, both to the new applicant to have that opportunity to, sort of have more of an informal dialogue with a current member to get a sense for the organization. Is it a fit for them? And is it a fit for the organization? And we invest so heavily in our own people, and I think that you have to have a level of trust with your staff to be able to hear what they have to say about potentially people coming into your organization. It's paid off, and it's been very fruitful for us to utilize that opportunity. So that's a bit of a snapshot of some of the things that are going on. I'll let the deputy talk maybe a bit about how the use of UKG as far as a filter in, and then certainly I'll let either Doug or Will talk about some of the touch points they may have in our recruiting piece.
So earlier this year, Doug and Will set us up with UKG recruiting platform. So prior to that, we used to get people apply through an email address, careers@scps.on.ca, which was tedious because we had to monitor it all the time. And then, so with the new one, there's a link right on the website that takes them to the UKG portal where they can apply. There's questions that they answer that automatically puts them in the pool or eliminates them, such as some people apply with a criminal record. You have to have an OACP certificate for a recruit position. If you don't have any of those mandatory things, CPR is another one. If you don't have them, it automatically tells me or tells us that are monitoring the UKG platform that they're not eligible to apply. So it really cuts down on the time reviewing all the documents because it tells you right there whether they fit or not. Currently we have 4 open postings. We just leave them open so that we can constantly get people applying, and in this day and age, recruits and employees are hard to find. So we leave it open and let people apply, and then as positions come up, we've kind of got an idea of who's applied and who we may want to look at. So it's a great product, and we use it quite well.
Well, thank you, Deputy Chief. It's our pleasure. So just on what the chiefs have talked about. So the UKGs are HRS system or platform in the municipality. I'm glad to hear you're seeing the fruits of the labor there. We got it set up for the service, so I'm glad it's paying off for you there. It's definitely probably tenfold increased our efficiencies internally for municipal recruiting, so I'm glad to see it's carrying over to police. To answer the chair directly, time-wise, if I were to I don't track it to a T. We provide service to the police service as things come up, ad hoc. Some days are busier than others, but if I were to gather a guess, we're probably 25, as high as 30% of our time at different peaks dedicated to the service. Of course, we do payroll every other week, but Will has it down streamlined, pretty efficient. So the big thing is labor. Any labor items that come up, we work with the chiefs on that. And disability management is quite a heavy one with respect to managing claims, AUK or non-AUK claims. Pretty heavy there with respect to the follow-ups and tracking those. So I would say 25-30% is probably a good number of our time.
So as it is budget season, I just want to ask the question in public. Are the HR costs used by the police service board, are they included in the police budget and apportioned in such a way that we see the true cost of policing in our community? Because we're coming into budget, and I just like to make sure that if that question were asked, I have an answer.
So through the chair, it has been identified and added as a standalone accounting line in the 2025 operating budget. So again, as we sort of move forward and collect that data, we'll be able to have a very true, accurate reflection. And if I can just top up just one additional thought. Provincially, there is a recruitment strategy that the OACP and the associations, the Police Association of Ontario, the Toronto Police Association, and the OPPA, which is the Association for the Provincial Police, along with some government stakeholders, have initiated a recruiting strategy. One of the unique functions of that will be anyone who sort of lands on that spot will be able to send off applications to any of the 44 municipal police services or the provincial service. So it's really, it's a one door to get through so that you have access to all the different agencies, which we think will really align with how young people are approaching as they look to seek to get their foot in the policing door.
Thank you for that. So it will not be reflected in the 2024 budget, but it will be reflected in the 2025 budget. And the reason why I'm saying that now is because I would like us at this point to maybe red flag that, because when we get into the 2025 budget and the true cost of policing is reflected by HR, our costs being separated out and applied to the police, I'd like that number, whatever that percentage is, to be kind of red flag, because really it won't be new money that's being spent on the police budget in municipally overall, because the money's being spent right now. But if we apportion the cost to the 2025 budget from HR municipal to HR police, same amount of money is still going to be spent, but I just don't want to see whatever that percentage is on the police budget identified as like increased spending, if you will, overall. If you see what I'm getting at. Because we will be looking next year, I know there's a collective agreement coming due at the end of 2025, so we can anticipate there'll be some increases in the police budget in 2025. There will be every year, but I just don't want to have that extra little bit sort of viewed in the same way as any budgetary increases we have as a result of contracts or something like that. So I'm just red flagging that now, if you see what I'm after.
Yes.
Okay, move your hand. No. My thing just timed out on me. Okay, thank you for that. So if that's it for 7.1, can we move on to 7.2, Traffic Provincial Enforcement Statistics, Q2 2024 POL 2024-25?
Yes, thanks again, Chair. So again, you'll see in the report, there's a bit of a summary. This is a carry forward, a commitment that the police service made to report, be transparent about certainly our traffic enforcement activities in the community. So the first iteration had the first 4 months of the year, so January to April. This takes into account the next 4, so May to the end of August, if I'm correct. Yep. And then the corresponding graphs, again, kind of help tell the picture of where we are spending a lot of our time and where we are, or what enforcement we are undertaking. So some of the offenses, in really no particular order, that obviously we enforce some bylaw offenses, the Railway Safety Act, the Liquor License Act. When I reference document and/or equipment, those are offenses under the Highway Traffic Act. For example, someone driving without a license, someone driving without proper documentation. Moving violations would reference things such as turns not in safety, careless driving, unsafe lane change, perhaps exiting a personal private lot onto the roadway that, say, resulted in an accident. Obviously, you'll see that speeding takes up a majority of the enforcement actions. Provincial other may include things under the Trespass to Property Act, the Liquor License Act, or sorry, not the Liquor License Act, the Off-Road Motor Vehicles Act, so other provincial pieces of legislation. And then obviously insurance, there is a compulsory motor vehicle automobile insurance act that governs your obligation to have insurance on your vehicles. So those are the various sort of areas of enforcement that we are undertaking. Again, the graph is showing, and it's breaking it down from Zone 1 activities to Zone 2 activities. If I can just highlight the fact that in Zone 2, there were 397 speeding tickets issued in that 4-month period. And when you get to the circular graphs, again, we've identified 7 of the major roadways that we focus a lot of those activities. And again, I've mentioned this before, Glendon Drive, both coming in and exiting the village of Mount Bridges. Longwoods Road, because of its provincial highway status. Adelaide Road, again, similar component. Parkhouse Drive, again, along the south border of Mount Bridges. Head Street, certainly in the town of Strathroy itself. Carroll Street, which is a fairly substantial, I'll call it ring road, around the outskirts of Strathroy. And then certainly Melbourne Road as a county road are areas that we really target at our enforcement on. One, because of the volume of traffic that is utilizing those roads. 2, because of the potential high speeds that are undertaken while people are driving on those roads. So we've, again, prioritized those roads so that we can show not only to the board but to our community where we are focusing our efforts to ensure that our roads remain safe, not only for people who live and work here, but visitors that are coming into town. So I'll leave it at that, and certainly take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions on these graphs? I know I have 1 or 2, but seeing that, I'll just proceed then. If we take a look at this 2 circular graphs, Chief, May to August 2024, the second one, May to August 2024, traffic by zone, it shows 460 in Zone 2, 137 in Zone 1. That would be the number of tickets written, or is that the number of incidents? I'm just wondering what that refers to.
That is specifically referencing the number of tickets.
Number of tickets. And then can I go further and ask, the 460 to 137 ratio there, that's by ticket. Would that also represent the allocation of resources in terms of time and cruisers and officers? I'm just wondering if there's a rough correspondence here in terms of, because I mean, Zone 2 is much larger, and it makes sense that there might be more time spent out there, but I just want to know if the allocation of resources are such that it kind of reflects this 75-25 ratio I'm looking at.
Through the chair, that's an accurate assessment or connection to make. As we develop and implement the use of the dashboard that I was making reference to earlier, that will provide us even greater detail in regards to time spent. But just looking at this data and knowing how specifically our 2 traffic members are committed, they are spending, I would say, as this graph represents, about 75% of their time in Zone 2, because that is where there is the greater volume of traffic on our open highways at greater speeds. And so we have specifically targeted those areas as our priorities to ensure that we have a presence and an enforcement reaction, so that we are bringing awareness and enforcement at the same time to reduce those potential of collisions or serious accidents from occurring.
Thank you. I think that's a really important point to make, especially at budget time, that in the area of traffic tickets, that 3/4 of the resources of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Department are being deployed in Zone 2, the former Caradoc. And I know that's an advantage to me as well as a person who lives in Strathroy, Zone 1. I drove to several businesses in Ward 2 over the last week or so, and so I'm using those roads too. even though I live in Strathroy, but I think it's very important to realize that there's that kind of allocation of resources. And I think it, it's just a good public information. So then, the recommendation is the board receive POL 2024-25 for information. Do I have a mover? I look to my right, yes, Member Hall, and I look to my left, Member Hahn, and all those in favor? Carried. And do you have a question, Member?
Yes, I was just on that chart there. I mean, 137 plus 460 is like 600 and, or sorry, it's 597. And it doesn't appear like the graph above it equals 597. Am I missing something?
So through the chair to Member Hahn, no, you're not. We took those 7 roads to highlight activities specifically on those.
I see.
There are
Thank you.
other, certainly, those aren't the only 7 roads that enforcement have occurred on. But again, those are the areas through complaints and discussions we get through or with community members that tend to sort of become repetitive in areas of concern. So we want to highlight our activities on those specific roads, that we're not ignoring other areas or other streets, but you can see obviously a majority of our enforcement is occurring on those roads. And specifically, I will use Glendon Drive as a roadway that has a lot of complaints that are tied to it. So that is no surprise to me that that is the road that we are laying the most tickets on and trying to impact and influence the behaviors of drivers so that they are reducing their speeds.
I support that motion. Thank you.
And if I can, and I know I didn't sort of print off, and I know that in previous meetings there has been some discussions about the data that accompanies the radar signs that have been deployed, and we have 12 of them in our community. That as a police service and as a police service board, you have supported and paid for those signs. They are, and I'll use the reference, a very proactive way, a very effective education tool to bringing awareness about a motorist and their speed as they enter into some of our built-up areas. And that's where we have purposely deployed them so that there is that awareness as you come into Mount Bridges, as you come into Strathroy, along Head Street. Currently there is 2 out on Scotchmere near the elementary school. And they are a very effective tool in they bring awareness and they do reduce speeds. I didn't specifically speak to them, but if you were to look at the data, you'll see that the average speeds are very close to what those posted speeds are. There are some high flyers, but the majority of the drivers are adhering to those posted speed limits, which to me is a very reassuring sign. And we will continue to expand our inventory as our budget allows us to, because I think it is a great asset to have in the community, because I can't have a uniform car on every street corner, and it does have the same effect of being a deterrent and slowing people down. And in addition, it has obviously another element where it is collecting data, real data, that helps others in the municipality, perhaps the director from the roads, who can then sort of use vehicle traffic, time of day traffic, in helping make decisions about road resurfacing or road work that may be required. So,
Member Hahn?
In regards to your comments, Chief, are there those radar posts also on Glendon Drive coming into Mount Bridges? Are there flashing signs there to reduce that 109 or Longwoods Road? To me, those are real critical areas, especially with speed. Accidents would be quite horrific.
through the chair to Member Hahn, there is 2 posted on Glendon. more on the east side of the community, near the school crossing area. One catching traffic going eastbound exiting the community, and the other one is a little further out that captures vehicles coming westbound into the community. I don't believe that there is any currently deployed on Longwoods, but again, as we look to acquire more of those assets, we certainly have lots of areas where we could expand the program to.
Thank you for that. Maybe we can now move on to item 7.3, the 2023 annual use of force report.
I'll be relatively brief on this. The report speaks for itself. I'll touch on the 6 that are noted here for the use of a CEW, or the conducted energy weapon, or better known as a taser. So in 5 of the 6 reports with a CEW, force presence is basically you pull it out of the holster, and that's all you do. You don't use it on anyone. It's basically they see it and they decide that they'll comply instead of engage in whatever activity they're engaging in to get us to do that in the first place. The other one, there was an actual deployment, and it says in here the reason for the deployment is that the person being arrested had a knife on his person, and it was used to protect the officers and the subject from physical harm. Of all of our use of force reports, there were no injuries sustained by members of the public or our officers, which is paramount. Again, we do a lot of destruction of animals, usually deers that are struck by vehicles. That's usually where those come from. Very brief, I'll open it up to questions.
Absolutely. Any questions or comments, Member Hahn?
Deputy, I had a question in regards to the timing of the report coming to the board, and I know it was dated April 2024. I think we saw that in April, did we not? Or like today is December and we're approving it. Like, let me know a little bit about the timing, because I believe it has to be posted also.
Yeah, so I believe the 2024 year will be presented in January. I'm not sure if this one was overlooked. I would have to go back and check.
Yeah, somehow I seem like we've approved it previously, but I don't know.
Yeah.
And if I can just top that up, and it may have appeared in an earlier board, but we were sort of going through an inventory of reports that we are required, and to be safe, I just wanted to ensure that it was brought back forward.
Okay.
And again, and I'll just maybe conclude on this comment, the fact that there was just under 500 people arrested in 2023, and our members investigated just under 10,790 calls for service, and there was only 15 use of force reports, 7 of which were for the destruction of animals. And as you've heard the deputy say, 6 were the presence of a conducted energy weapon. If I keep doing my math correctly, that means there was 2 occurrences or 2 incidents where use of force potentially was applied, which I think gives a very clear picture of the excellence in the policing service you have here, the training they are receiving, the quality of the de-escalation skills that our members have. I would stack this data against any police service in this province, in this country, to show that you aren't going to get those types of results, because I firmly believe that we have such a professional and well-trained police service, and these, this information only sort of substantiates that.
And in that regard, if that could be on, the website, well, it will be on the website, but brought forward maybe under My FM, it is stellar, truly stellar, and compliments to the full force.
Member Hall.
I'm just gonna follow up on what the chief said. I think it goes to show as well the benefits of having a municipal police force with local officers that know the residents, that they're able to de-escalate that much better without having to escalate the situation. So yeah, kudos and good job to everybody.
Comment.
I'll comment too, the idea that I look on police officers as peace officers, keeping the public peace, and it takes a cool head and a rational mind to exercise that duty. And so it really shows, I think, excellent judgment by our officers in the field under sometimes difficult circumstances, because it's not always easy when you're faced with someone who's exhibiting violent behaviors to retain your calm. So it's just really great to see that. Okay, and can we move to accept that yet? Okay, so recommendation, the board received POL 2024-26 for information. Member Hall, Member Hahn, all those in favor? Carried. Although it's already been discussed at the board and presented, we had a lot of things go on this year. And so I was going to take it upon myself for a moment or two to speak to one or two items which the board has full knowledge of, but I think we should just say some things out loud for the sake of the minutes and the information that goes to the public and to council. And the first of these is the 8.1, the year-end review of our strategic plan. And it's the last meeting of the year, and this will probably be my last meeting as chair before next year. So I just thought we'd take a few minutes here, and I won't bore you for too long, but it's largely for the audience. But in our strategic plan this year, a lot of really great work was done, and there was a lot of really good information that went out to the public and to council that I think bears repeating. So I'm just going to quickly zip through this, and I'll read out just a couple of little sections. But when we get on, page 2, paragraph 1, and this is marks attributed to the chair of the board, but I'll say it again, that civilian oversight of police services is an important component of local governance. And our municipality is fortunate that the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Service is both community-centered and municipally operated. And it's embedded in our communities, and both its uniformed and civilian members are devoted to our safety, and in many cases they are members of our community. And as chair of this board, I value that extremely highly, and we see the benefits, the positive benefits, I think, on a daily, weekly, and monthly report when we get it from our service. The chief had many comments too on page 3, and he had a couple of paragraphs I'm just going to highlight. But paragraph 2, the chief said, as a police service, we continue to operationalize a community-based model and remain actively engaged with our residents, business owners, community partners, and service members. I think that was highlighted today when you have members of the public coming up and thanking police officers in their community for a job well done. Paragraph 4, he said, the chief said, we continue to demonstrate our commitment to provide adequate and effective policing through community engagement, core policing functions, victim assistance, and fiscal responsibility to our municipality. When we have a 2.95% increase in our police budget this year, compared to many of our neighboring lower tier municipalities in southwest Ontario and across the province, I think that's to be envied. And that's even when we're trying to, each year, with each iteration of the budget, more accurately reflect the true cost of policing in the community. We're trying to factor in what the costs are and include them all. And I think we're getting, I'll editorialize here, but really great value for the money spent, because the level of service that we receive, I think, is showed monthly in our reports to be absolutely excellent. Again, that's me editorializing. And then paragraph 2 on page 4, the chief went on and said, and backs this up, I think equally important is the public cost of policing. And you know, we end a lot of our years with our operating budgets with a bit of a surplus, which is then put towards a capital account, which we can use as a reserve for capital requirements. And one such is the next item I'll be talking about, which is the police headquarters expansion. And these annual budgetary increases are minimal, and the publicly accepted by the community members we serve. So, you know, I think we're in really good shape when we take a look at our community in terms of policing. An interesting point to note when we get to page 5 was that, Strathroy, the town of Strathroy, from 1872, you know, till amalgamation, you know, had its own police force. And now still does with Strathroy-Caradoc police force. An interesting point to note, though, is that the Caradoc Township, pre-amalgamation, in 1999, chose to no longer be with the OPP, and they contracted in January 1st, 1999, with the then Strathroy Police Force. And for the 2 years prior to amalgamation, the Strathroy Police Force, under contract to the Township of Caradoc, provided police services in that area. And so for 2 years, the former municipality of Caradoc was choosing to be with the Strathroy Police Force. And that was, of course, formalized with amalgamation when the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Force came into existence. I just think it's really interesting to note that prior to amalgamation, that the Township of Caradoc decided to take a look at their policing needs. They evaluated the OPP, they evaluated Strathroy Police, and they chose Strathroy Police, and have stayed with us, of course, have been Strathroy-Caradoc Police Force ever since. I think sometimes these historical choices are interesting to point out in, you know, in budgetary times such as we are in now. And we move to page 7, our mission. The mission statement includes the word community 3 times. Our mission is not to stand above, but to stand with our community, within our community, and to work hand in hand with our community partners, with our focus on helping to lead our community to be engaged and a safe place to be. I don't know how you could hope to emphasize community more than that, but I think that's the centerpiece of the Strathroy-Caradoc Police Services. Not everybody gets that across the province, that they don't get that level of community commitment from the police forces that they contract with, especially if they're going with the provincial police force, who have, they do a great job, but their personnel move in and out of the community. They might not be from the community, and I don't know if you get the same level of community feeling in those situations. And I'm not going to go through the whole report, but the section I would really highlight is pages 19 through about 22, and it's the what we heard section if we're looking at a year-end review. What did we hear when we did our survey for the strategic plan? Well, we heard an awful lot, but it was overwhelmingly positive. And we spoke to the community agencies that need to regularly interact with the police force, and the interaction was described as exceptional. We had community consultations where we found that there was just a high level of support for keeping community-based police services, and that they were much more approachable for community agencies than police services in larger centers. And as we go through this too, I think one of the key points is on page 22, what we heard, the satisfaction with the level of service provided. We really heard, almost without exception, that there was a high level of support for keeping or for retaining a community-based police service. And they were really just, people felt that there was a connection to them. And so, when we take a look at what's been going on this year with budget increases in other areas compared to our own, and what we heard in our survey, I think we've had a pretty good year. And so that'll take me over to item 8.2, which is I'm supposed to report back on the SCPS building expansion. And as we know, the proposal to go to a Class B costing was taken before municipal council, and they concurred that we should go ahead with the Class B costing. The development and expansion of a police headquarters here in town is a centerpiece of our strategic plan for the police force, but it is also, more importantly, a very important aspect of the municipal strategic plan in terms of infrastructure over the next few years. So from where I'm sitting, I see a very strong commitment by council towards our police force, in that they are approving, they don't have to approve it, they concur with the building expansion. So this is on target. It's moving forward, as we know, but I'm just saying this for the purpose of reading it into the record at the end of the year, that I think over the next 2 years we're going to see that project move forward and hopefully be completed before too long. Okay, I'll just move on. Does anybody else have a comment on that before I move on to 1 or 2 other items? Just to the chief.
If I can, Chair, and again, just to sort of build on your comments and identifying the tremendous amount of work that went into the development of the strategic plan. And I'll be very, very, very brief on this, is that certainly as a service, we really see it as a relationship with our governance board, a relationship with our municipal staff partners here at Town Hall, and certainly a relationship with our community members. And it is really the focus of what is important to us as an organization. And yes, the strategic plan helps drive where we want to go and prioritize. But at the core, I think we understand from everyone at our service that the relationship, the trust that we have and have earned and provide back to our community members is really the fundamental starting point to being able to provide the service level that we strive to provide. But really and I can't say this enough, it's about just being committed to that relationship.
Thank you for that, Chief. Just move on briefly to item 8.3, board resignation. And we want to thank Henry Wiersma for his service. We had noted that at a previous meeting, but I guess what we want to do is formally accept it. So the recommendation is that the board accept the resignation of Henry Wiersma, provincial appointee, from this board, and that the board formally declare a vacancy. Do I have a mover? Member Hall, seconded. Member Hahn. All those in favor? Thank you. And then finally, under this section 8, the draft board, a draft of the board survey and the information form. So we'll do this in 2 pieces here, if we could. Let's move first to the board information form, and it's there for you to look at. Thanks to our clerk and the chief, and perhaps the deputy chief, for filling in a lot of the technical items. And then I was asked to note that question number 10, is that it? Mm-hmm. Requires additional input, and this has to do with board training. So if we could just scroll through, I'm looking for number 10 here as I go down my screens. Looking for it.
What page
What
is
page
it?
is it on? I'm just looking, is it on page?
This is on the information survey?
Yes, on information survey, which is a 23-page document.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for this question. Their question, they're numbered in several sections.
So it's part of the first section. So let me just find the page.
Looks like page 10.
Yeah, it does.
10 to
It's
11.
right at the end, right at the bottom of page 10.
Okay, so I guess we need some input here for the clerk, who will be putting it into this report and sending it off probably soon after this meeting. Please indicate any optional training topics that your board members would like to receive that will help the board members fulfill the legislative responsibilities. So, I'm putting that out there to the members present. Is there anything, I'm not really that familiar with all of the optional training courses. Are they listed here? No. Or member?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just trying to think back to the mandatory training that we did.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure if there was any course that covered actual training on the CSPA itself and the new requirements of that. I know there's a lot of inclusion diversity training in that. I'm just not sure if there's one specific to the CSPA and how it relates to boards. So maybe some training on that specific.
So we could cover ourselves up and say any course that includes information on CSPA.
CSPA and how it relates to board governance.
That sounds like a winner,
Yeah.
if it exists. And did we have, we did receive some DEI in those, diversity, equity, inclusion
Yes.
in those. So was there anything else that, can we just go with that for the
Yes.
moment?
Yes.
We can suggest one thing, and with that, I believe that is now complete. And if you look that over, I guess what we're going to do is just provide direction to the clerk that this completed list of items now be submitted prior to January the 8th, which I think is the deadline. So, yes? Yes. I think it just says direction to staff here.
Yeah, we should probably just make a motion
Okay,
that-
we have a
with any
move
changes.
that, this item.
Motion to submit the survey as
Yeah.
completed.
Okay, and seconded by member Han, I suppose, and, right, and you second it?
I'm just asking, is number 2 part of your motion?
Well,
We can wait if you want, we can wait.
oh, I was
that
just gonna do
motion
them,
after.
I was gonna do them separately, but,
Okay, then I'll, then I'm
yeah,
fine.
just
with
for this.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that first one, all those in favor, thank you very much. And now we move on to, the second one, which is, the policing insight statement questions. And we have, what happened was, the information went out to the members of the board. They provided email responses with bullets, if you will. The clerk and I sat down, we compiled it, and this is what resulted. So if we look through this, you may see some of the language which would perhaps match the language that you provided. I guess I'd be asking for any omissions, additions, or deletions at this point, and if we have some, we can do them now. If not, we can just make a motion that this be sent in. Right, member Han.
I had a question in regards to number question 4, and it's the second bullet. I don't know what page, I guess it's page 2, And the board, the very first one says the board receives, so kind of statistical information about law enforcement. The second point is, I think it should read the board receives an overview of activities from the community versus provides an overview. Do you see that wording?
Oh, yeah.
This was on page 2.
Yeah. The
Bottom
bullet
of
point
page
2.
last bullet point.
Yeah. Just the word receives. And the other one, I know
So just be clear, substitute receives for.
provides.
Also, yeah, okay.
For
Receive
provides.
goes in for provides, okay, very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I also wanted to ask if we could include one more bullet in there, effectively addressing all those A to Fs. And I know that as a board member, I really value the Criminal Investigation Division report. And I feel it, with that report, it identifies the issues on hand in the community that are prevalent, that take a lot of the resources, as we saw today with that issue that we talked about under the board criminal investigation report. And I think that really is prevalent here. I value it, it's significant, and it also encapsulates the street crime unit division that I feel responds to those items also. So it's different than the statistical data under bullet number 1 versus the community services report that talks about community engagement. I would like to suggest we add the criminal investigation report that we receive monthly. That's very detail oriented and that provides the true monthly report of the criminal activity in the community, and that we take time to review those items.
Yeah, it provides a bit of a narrative, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it helps tell the story.
And also that, you know, within the last 2 years, and this was through the good work from the police services, that they implemented that street crime unit division.
Okay, yep. Absolutely. So I think we're allowed up to 1,500 words.
I know. I kind of looked and I think we're within that group.
Okay,
We're
but
within
yes,
that.
Okay, those are good. Those are useful additions of detail. And I think that we can perhaps look for then a motion that as amended, this be submitted by the clerk before the January 8th deadline. Moved by Member Hunt and Hall and, yep. So H and H and approved by everybody. Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Let me see now. We now move on to number 9, inquiries or comments by members.
I have none.
None for me, I think I said enough during the.
Wish the audience and staff a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And thanks everybody for their hard work, and I hope everyone enjoys what family time or rest or relaxation they get over this special time of year. Okay, with that said, we'll now move on to in-camera matters. The board may move into closed session to discuss the following. One item in accordance with the municipality's procedure bylaw to approve in-camera meeting minutes, and one item pursuant to section 44, subsection 2, subsection B of the Community Safety and Policing Act 2019 as amended regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employee of the board. And recommendation of the board move into closed session at 11:17. Moved by Member Hahn, second by Member Hall. All those in favor? Thank you. And we'll just take a brief rest here before we go into in-camera. Just wait for the clerk to tell me that. tell me when. Well, welcome back, everyone. The board, let's see, that's the closed session. And I'm going to report on the closed session. And what do I have to say about that? That there was one item discussed in accordance with the municipal procedure bylaw, and there was one item pursuant to section 44(2)B of the Community Safety and Policing Act as amended regarding personal members of an identifiable individual, including members of the police service or any other employee of the board. And so I have reported on that, and the recommendation is that the direction in closed session be approved. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Mr. Pond, second by Mr. Paul. All in favor?
You didn't cut off meeting until
wonderful. And I had, just before we move on to scheduling the meetings, I had neglected to comment when we were dealing about the budget. I just wanted to point out, and we had come up at a finance meeting at council about the percentage of operating budgets used by various departments. And I was just going to say that with 88% of the year gone, 88% of the police operating budget has been used as the 23 pay period 23. So that's just for public consumption, that the operating budget is in fact being used up completely. There might be a small surplus, we don't know yet, but that's just for public consumption. And moving along here with my pieces of paper that get muddled about. Schedule of meetings, Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at 10 a.m. and we'll elect a new chair at that time. And Tuesday, February 18th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Thank you. And thanks for everyone. Have a wonderful season with family and friends. And the recommendation, December 17th, 2025, Police Services Budget Meeting adjourned at 11:51. Moved, seconded, approved. Thank you very much. There you go.